I mean, I agree fully, Rave. It sounded. I mean, what Ram Dass says this exactly. He's like, it's not. I didn't want to get high. I wanted to be free. He highlights that very strongly in one of his talks. I think that was the one that we covered too. Becoming nobody.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's sort of like a state of bliss that's just totally unaffected. I mean, this is what people are very careful not to define nirvana, but they characterize it as being this state of bliss that's totally unaffected by anything, any type of causes or conditions that come and go. Vito, I would challenge your definition by saying that aren't you just, instead of, okay, you're not subject to the desires of other people, aren't you just chaining
Yeah,
yourself to your own desires at
yeah,
that point?
yeah. That's a fucking good question that you asked, because I was thinking about that. Just when I listen freedom, and when I answer, I said, oh, if I feel like there's nothing controlling me, I'm free. And if I feel like if I want to do something, but then it's not actually I that wants it. It's like an image of me. Like there's an
A
image that,
symbol.
yeah, there's like a, or at least I'm just like using a different word for ego, I guess. This is ego. Its entire existence is to like get me stuff with a certain probability, with like a very good probability of outcome. I wanna pay my rent. How do I like build my life, so build my action so that this possibility comes true. And but if I remove that ego, would I even want anything from the world? I don't know. Then would I
I
be
feel like
free? Yeah.
I feel like it always will exist though. I mean, it's like all those thoughts that pop in your head all the time, all those little like judgments
Mm-hmm.
you have where you're hiding like your own truth, that to go back to this chapter because I'm starting to remember now.
Nice.
um uh yeah, it's like those things are always going to happen. So I don't think there's any time where that like you can stop a thought. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we can
it's that
stop a thought. Yeah.
reaction to it. No, it's just like, clouds passing by.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's that reaction to it, right? And that's what can make you free or not free. It's like if you let that thought consume you.
Yeah.
Totally. And to connect that back to my initial question, how I see that playing with desires is the same way, is that freedom is
Mm-hmm.
actually free to pursue my desire or not, and being totally fine
Mm-hmm.
with either one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I like that unbound boots. That sounds,
Yeah.
it's like the perfect way to describe it. That
Unbound.
analogy of like pulling something behind you
Mm-hmm.
is perfect because that's what it feels like sometimes. It's like all this stuff is like holding you back almost. All these thoughts in your head and
Yeah, and it's so easy to be bound. And like one of the things I highlighted, or I noted was because he was talking about how this extends to how you interact with the world,
Mm.
and because that's really difficult. Like because you start, I mean, I think we naturally have just a very innate way to put ourselves higher or lower than people and judge our beings. I mean, because he recalls many times where it's like, I can't share this truth. I can't be honest about me and myself because I'll be killed or I'll be rejected, and like so all these things, and so we start not being truthful, and then that makes us less free. And so something he says is, until you have given the whole world its freedom, you'll never be free. And that's like, you know, the way to get to that point is kind of terrifying because
Yeah.
you're facing destruction on a lot of different levels, like self-destruction where you're being honest and where that honesty can get you, and you're also extending that to other people like beyond yourself and people you disagree with, and you have to let them be free. But we have so many ways that we judge and we measure, put ourselves, lower or higher, and then we start to believe that we should do something about these things. So now we're even further bound. It goes on and on.
Further bound. This.
It's very heavy. It's a very like mind-blowing I guess like thing to come into realizing, I guess, is the way to put it.
Yeah, I want to like highlight this mechanism of ego that I just noticed right now in this conversation. But I start off with this. You know how, not like pick on religion or something, but you know how when like, I don't know, like 10th century or like 5th century, they used to like believe crazy stuff. Like
Hmm.
no one saw God, nothing, but everyone like firmly believed. It's like, okay, there's like a guy up, there's heaven, there's hell, there's like a day of judgment. It's like, but all of that belief is like built on blind faith. And look, I feel like there are things I believe in my worldview that is also dogmatic, I would say. But I'm trying to like understand how did I even end up in that place, because it doesn't really make sense for someone to just like believe something that's not there. And I was like noticing this conversation, which I think might be where I feel like there are like aspects of it that we didn't know before, that we like suddenly start seeing, like this unbound thing is like, oh, that's exactly how it feels sometime. Yeah, it's like a new information, right? Which is oh, yeah, this unbound thing is true. Yeah, I can see that. But then let's say if I said a lot other bullshit, more bullshit. Yeah, unbound, but there's like a god up in the sky, and whenever you feel like this, he will save you, papa, papa. And so you just have to like start praying or something. Now, don't get me wrong, praying works, at least to like decrease the stress or whatever. But then I feel if you said, oh, this like God, and I feel if I build on top of that a lot, then I start believing stuff that's not even there. And now the question is, how much of my worldview is like that? Just believing stuff that's not even there. I don't know. But it's like a very interesting question, I feel.
I feel like that's where like being in the present is the best thing,
Yeah.
Hmm.
because you only have like what's right in front of you,
Yeah, that's true.
what's happening right there at that time. It is funny how much we live like in the past or in the future all the time. Like even just planning your week out, like, it's just impossible almost to be completely present
Yeah.
in anything.
Yeah.
This that's the pastor.
You're breaking up, Rave.
You're underwater.
Yeah, you're underwater.
Yeah, underwater. Yeah.
Surface, please, just surface.
Sure, no.
Not really.
No.
It's like you're halfway out of the cave.
All right, how
Cave
about
underwater.
that? Better.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so weird. Yeah. So I was saying, any thought necessarily really has to deal with past or future, because you can't grab onto the present moment with a thought.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
And then, Vito, I was gonna connect. I'm reading something
Let me
else
write
right
that
now.
Dude, I'm sorry, go on.
What? I'm reading something else right now where it's a teacher giving a talk to some monks, and he talks about this issue of seeing things while you're meditating, and he kind of goes into like, if whatever you believe in is what you're going to see. So if you believe in devas and gods and all the heaven realms, then you might sit down and meditate and see all these things and Buddhas and all these crazy things. Likewise, if you believe in hell and all these crazy things and your mind is filled with fear and anger, like, you're going to see all types of stuff like that. But the art of meditation is not to chase those things or to believe those things, but rather just to notice that that's what you're experiencing and let it go. You know?
Yeah. Yo, actually, I want to like take some time to like talk about this thing that you just casually said. I feel like any ego or thought is always grounded in either past or future. Like I was, before you guys joined, I was like talking to Rave. I was saying, yeah, I have like this, I don't know, when So I'll tell you easy example. Sometimes I get a food craving, okay? So right now I eat broccolis, but when the craving comes, in my head, like all thoughts of ideas come up. I should cook this. Oh, should I eat this? Should I just go to the supermarket, buy something really quick and just come back? All these thoughts start flooding. Then I'm like, how do I like combat this? And is it even real? Like, what is me, what is not me, and shit like this. I was thinking, and I realized all the thoughts that come up, which gets triggered due to the sensation of food craving, is either a thought of like a past or future, which I find very interesting. Like, can ego even be grounded in present? Like, what would ego say to like say, oh, you know what? We're gonna be happy right now. Yeah, I have an intense craving to be happy right now. I never heard that. I never heard it say that to it. I'll be honest.
Um, well, that's spiritual ego, right? That's how that shows up. Is
Yeah.
like I want all the insights about what's going on right now, and I want to
Mhm.
gobble them all up for myself.
Yeah. Even the right now is not right now, right? That's I feel it's like a delusion. Right now is like the next moment.
Yeah, I think I've heard teachers say about by the time you think about the present moment, it's already in the past because the present's just happening too fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so that goes back to the Tao, where it's just like you can't. There's how
Can't
what's
grasp
the
it.
yeah? It can't. It's untouchable, pretty much. So you can't.
Mhm.
It's nothing that can be conceived. Because even if you take that in a very scientific way, like there's a timing to thoughts. Like we know that thoughts, like all this sort of stuff in the brain, can happen at differing speeds. So it's a state of just of being.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
there's
Well, you can't
no.
stop time. It's always moving.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
Well,
time
Like,
is a construct
Well,
of ego. I feel that.
yeah. So I'm actually reading a book that talks about time not existing
Oh,
and like
nice.
how
I feel
yeah
that's true.
it's very wild. I mean, it's at least like by demonstration very relative. I mean, in our own experience, we know time is very relative because
Yeah.
like an hour of book club is like how that doesn't feel like an hour, no, but
mhm.
like an hour of work is like a day's worth of work.
I think Einstein
It's
spoke
enough.
about time in a very clever way. Fuck, I forget what he says, but he put it in such a clever way, such that even science doesn't like get triggered. But like kind of like shines on the truth. He says something like time is just the hour hand keeping moving once or something like that. But there's nothing in time that is like absolute truth. Like you can't. Like it only like lives in imagination, doesn't live in actuality, which is why I feel it's not real.
Yeah,
you
I mean,
know,
this all makes me think of Pooh from Tao of Pooh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
where there's like a certain level of ignorance that goes into this sort of state of being. Not like ignorance in like the, I guess, neglectful way, but more of like, even like memory is living in the past. Like when you see something and you remember what it is, you're connecting it to something that you conceive as being in the past. So ignorance, this kind of ignorance, like Pooh, who doesn't seem like he knows anything at all. um, is part of this like it makes me think of being like free because like when you're ignorant, you're not really like attached to any sort of piece of knowledge. It's like that's that and that's
Yeah.
that.
That's true. You know
it's like
what's
Just waking
seeing.
up with a clean slate every day.
Yeah, I was gonna say seeing everything for the first time. Always the freshness of
Mhm.
the present moment.
And that's with psychedelics and everything. You really get a sensation for that because you just look at the most what you would consider
Uh-huh.
to be the most basic thing, but it's so novel and it's
yeah.
amazing,
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember one of my TN teachers. I don't know if she's ever done psychedelics, but she just told me through her practice and meditation, she just picked up a button one day and was just so fascinated with it. And I, at the
Mm.
time, did not understand that, and now I fully understand that. Like I've
Mhm.
definitely experienced something like that, and so it's just as you guys are saying, like a clean slate, and things are just enjoyable, like experience them in like as if it's the first time.
I think ego. I was like trying to like do this meditation called satisfaction meditation, where you just sit in the present moment and be satisfied. Just be content. That's it, and just like building that muscle. And apparently, there are two kinds of reward system in our head. One is like the dopamine, like which is gets triggered by a radical positive to like negative change or negative to positive, whatever. And there's like other one which is like much more like subtle but like more stable, like gratitude, peace, when you look at like a sunset, stuff like this, the moment. And what I find interesting is like I was trying to do that. I realized like my entire ego is like highways, right? All the thought sequences, okay, this thought leading to that thought leading to that, or like highways to like get something in the future. and and just while talking now, I realize I'm not living actually in now. I'm living in like not now but the next moment. If I was like frame, like
A
not this
constant
frame
flow
but the
of
next
now.
frame. Yeah, rather than living the constant flow of now, I'm living in like the constant flow of the next frame.
Mhm.
you know and I feel that's where like the ego even gets an opportunity to like exist, manifest, and shit like that. Because if I'm living the present, like w-
I think there's a Buddhist saying that that came to mind when you're sharing this video, and it was something like, if you're looking for the river and you can't find it, you're in the river.
uh,
I really don't. Yeah, and the thing about not being able to find ordinary things interesting on Buddhist philosophy, there's like they say three mental forces that cause suffering, and the two of them are just aggressive desire and like aversion, which we talk about a lot, judgment. But one of them is the force of distraction in the mind that is constantly looking for something other than what's ordinary in your experience. Because the majority of what's here is just regular, like your breath, and the mind just constantly looking for something more interesting as a thing that binds you to suffering. The other point I was going to make when we were talking about thoughts a while back, an irony that arose for me is like the content of thoughts is always dealing with the past or the future, but thoughts can only ever exist in the present.
It's true.
Because anything else is just the content of a present thought about a past thought.
And that goes into Watts' thing, how do you know you're original? It's all just one continuous thought.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is really fascinating. It's like a huge like mind it's like a huge mind game, that I'm
A mind bender for sure.
yeah. It's like I'm trying to delude myself and simultaneously trying to like get out of it. I'm like, bro, what? Why?
There's a
Rave,
talk
have you ever
where
had an experience like that counters that? Where like just sort of, I mean, I guess it'd be like a meditative state, like a thoughtless state. But see, that's such a counterintuitive term, like a thoughtless state. Like, how do you know what state you're in unless there's a thought associated with it?
yeah, you just know after the fact, like, whoa.
Yeah, it's always after. I feel like I've experienced that. I can't like even pinpoint specifically when it's happened, but while we were talking about all this stuff, I was like, there are a lot of moments where you're like in flow, right? And
Yeah.
you're like, oh wow, I'm in flow. And then you're like, wait a second, I'm not anymore.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Oh no.
Yeah, you're like, oh wait, I was just there. And those are like such nice moments, because even like I'll call it the afterglow of flow, is like, it's a nice feeling because it's just like,
I like that.
yeah, because you're just like, oh, wow, that actually was really nice. I achieved that. That was really cool. So there's this like this thought afterwards, but I feel like I've
100%.
experienced
One time, my
those
first
times.
painting, I got into like I was listening to music, I got into flow, and I was just painting this painting, and I looked at this painting, fucking beautiful, right? And the thought that came in my mind is like, shit, I don't know how I did this, but it looks nice. But if I have to like replicate this, I can't, What the fuck am I supposed to do? It's like luck.
Well, it's funny how quickly you snap out of that state
Yeah,
and you're like right back into the.
yeah.
The thought that pokes in for me sometimes, and this is like from a Ram Dass bit, he does this where he's just like, on stage pretending he's watching his breath and just narrating thoughts that come up like, oh, I'm so hungry, what am I going to eat? And then eventually, like, the last thought is like, oh my God, it's happening. It's like, that's the one you always believe.
Oh, yes. I am in the flow, baby.
Yeah.
Not anymore. I feel that's why
It's funny how it works.
I feel that's why the entire spiritual thing, like every guy, the original guy, never like talks about it. It's like they always call it the unsaid. I don't want to like name it, you know. And you don't. I don't want to. You can't see this guy. You can't name him, But this guy exists. But I feel like the moment you like get to know him, you're not him anymore. So it's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? You know what I mean?
I lost me there. Say that. Can you say that one again?
No, I feel that's why like most spiritual like Buddha have like this emphasis on not naming the experience.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
of course we have like Satori or whatever, we have like names, right? But to like not talk about it. Oh, here's something that we can't talk about. Here's something that can't be said. Because I feel like the moment you say it, you're out of it. The moment you think you are in it, you're like out of it. So it's like, so what do I do now?
Right.
Well, it's kind of the lesson. There's nothing. There's
Oh,
literally
Yeah.
there's no. I
That's
mean,
the ego comes,
you
right?
can't. It's not that you can't talk about it as if it's not like allowed. It's just you can't. It's literally impossible.
Yeah.
It's
And I feel
Yeah.
like it like can't be replicated by trying hard to replicate it
Yeah.
either. It's not like
Yeah.
every
well,
time
you
I've
never put
experienced.
yourself there to begin with. It's like you didn't do
Yeah.
anything to get there. I'm sorry, I cut
Yeah.
you off though.
No, it was like the same thing I was gonna say. Because I'm just thinking about even just flow state, right? Like,
Mm.
yeah, there's certain activities that it's happened before, but anytime I've tried to get into flow, it doesn't work that way. It just happens, and then I notice it after it happened. So it's like if you were to name that experience, it could attach like that desire to replicate, I guess, too. You're like,
Yeah.
I need to do this again.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge
Yeah.
obstacle in meditation because you sit down, people talk about this, I've experienced it. You sit down, you have like an amazing experience. Okay, I'm all jacked up now tomorrow I go to sit down and okay, let's do it again. And you sit down and it's okay, what do I need to do with this experience to make it more like my last one? And as soon as you're in that trap, it's hopeless because you're clinging to a memory of the past and you're trying to push away what's here, and you're in a big spider web,
Mm-hmm.
Very tricky.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my notes, and let's see. I have a note for 72. I'm trying to see. Something that I liked reading was when he said these levels are not just transcendent of humanness, but also right within your humanness, because there's no separation between your human being and your divine being. And this is one of the things I feel that people, being one of these people myself, migrating from a mindset kind of like that's conformed to like a religious understanding and perception of things, and sort of like leaving that behind and going the other direction. You're kind of taught to reject the humanness and just in humanity and all these sorts of things. I felt like I had a greater, cleaner, better self that I had to keep in a certain state. And so it kind of creates a separation between humanness. And I like that what this is talking about is there's nothing wrong with your humanness. There's, and if you do think if there's something wrong with your humanness, you're kind of putting a judgment out there. And then where does that come from? And I mean, you follow that to wherever it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me when I think it was in the Becoming Nobody documentary where Ram Dass was just talking about being or feeling like annoyed with people or someone was a jerk or like having all those feelings.
Yeah.
And that's where that comes in, because I mean, when you're growing up with religion, like traditional, like I mean, I grew up Catholic, so
Same.
for me it was very like it is I can only imagine what it is like for people who were told that like it wasn't okay in their religion to be gay, and then to have all those feelings and having that separateness of like, I have to shove this down, this is a bad part of me, or this is a bad person in me, and then I have to like be this divine person over here.
Yeah.
And it's kind of toxic to be that way.
I mean, it can easily get in their head where, if for someone who does go through that background and they are, gay, that just the total like confusion, because like everyone around them is saying like, no one's like this. So man, like, don't you feel out of place?
Yeah.
That's
and
awful.
then to just, still have uncontrollable thoughts all the time.
Yeah.
That we're all plagued with, but this is like,
Yeah.
a little bit extra.
Yeah.
This is
That
a
is
really
a nice line in
interesting
there.
contrast between something like Christianity or whatever that really puts the pin on your sense of identity as being bad, almost. Like
Yeah.
who you are is sinful, and your only
Original sin.
chance is to surrender who you are out of guilt.
Yeah.
And then you flip it and it's like Eastern spirituality, there's still strong theme of surrendering who you think you are, but not because it's bad, but because like there are this stuff you don't actually need to own. It's not actually yours, these things that visit you like mental states or whatever. And by giving it up, there's great freedom. So it's like this almost reversal of this actually isn't you, what you thought it was, versus like this stuff is yours and it's bad.
Now you have to go confess and
I think
remedy it.
I think that's like the positive and the negative of Christianity, right? I feel at least compared to like my religion, which is, I don't know, I got pretty lucky in my at least my religion when I was growing up. No one like gave a fuck. Even temples are like, oh, you go whenever you're having a bad day or something, or during like special time, and they'll give you like sweets and stuff. So there's not like any pressure to like be a certain way, but they do like kind of like show that kind of should be this way by like telling stories, like Mahabharata, Ramayana, and stuff like that. And there's like a very indirect nudge of, oh, this guy, we worship him and he has these kind of values. But I feel like Christianity is more like, oh, you should be good. I think there's like a more direct attack to like, oh, these are the values, that I that I that are good, and these are the values that are not good, which I feel like really, I think is good and bad, I guess, but I feel it really like attacks a person's identity directly, because it feels like I don't know, it doesn't feel like you have a choice there, because I feel like values are really fundamental to like a person's existence.
Yeah.
And
And one thing I've become conscious of in myself is that we all have the religion we grew up with, and then there's all this stuff we're seeking out now. And
yeah,
there's kind of an asymmetry that's worth paying attention to there, where it's like when you're growing up, you're just going to Pastor John Doe down the street and whatever community you get, you know what I mean? Like wherever you grew up. And it's like you're just getting boxed up cultural religion for the masses. It's like freaking McDonald's, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Like,
Like,
I mean,
it's
there's a church on every corner here, so yeah,
yeah.
just like
Yeah.
McDonald's.
And like now for me, I mean, I'm doing my homework and trying to seek out the best Buddhist teachers, you know, that I can find. And so that's kind of an interesting difference. And I just re-listened to Alan Watts's one where he goes over, like, he talks specifically about Jesus and his teachings. And he goes out of his way to make the point that, like, Catholicism, there's plenty of nuance and sophistication to it, but that what the 99% of people hear is the McDonald's version of "you're bad,
McDonald's
you should
version.
That's funny that
confess."
you say that because there's a church here where I live that is like a come one, come all. We are unconventional. We just are like taking in people that just want to be spiritual, kind of. So it's like a no judgment, and they do have like teachings and all kinds of things. I think that it's like a loose like Christianity. But I just found it interesting that they're doing that because I think like it's when we grew up, it was very like one size fits all, like you're saying. Like you have to like go and do this and follow this church's rules and like follow it to a T and whatever, and you're in this community. But the strange thing for me always was, and the thing I always questioned was like this, it almost feels like it's a competition between all the religions where at its core, isn't it that we accept others and that we just like believe what we believe and we're going to love everybody else too, no
Yeah.
matter what?
You know,
And yet
absolutely.
here we have wars that are fought over religion. And it's
Yeah.
just so strange that that's even the thing. Because at its core, again, it's like politics. Like at its core, like what do we all want? Like basic things for survival, and we want our families to be okay, or you know, it's just strange to me. And that's, I guess, where ego comes in, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be right, the most
Yeah.
right.
In 2012, I used to watch this. I don't know, Muslim guy or something. I don't know. Like, I don't think he's Muslim. I don't know. He like really like well read Quran, right? And he like goes to like churches and like fights the fathers. I think that's what they are called. Yeah, fights the guy. He's like, you tell me this is written in the Bible. Yeah, but here it contradicts this. You tell me, you know, my book isn't like this. It's not contradicting like this. And it's like, bro, I found it really entertaining. But here's like a hot take I think that I kind of realized recently about religion itself. I feel religion's purpose is not to like uh, I feel religion's purpose is not to like show you the oh this God but to like it's like a methodology like how can you like discover this for yourself? Because I feel that's what I've been lacking. Like how do I see this for myself? You're saying good is good and bad is bad. How can I see this for myself? And I feel like that line of questioning is like no one does it. And I feel it's like it is certainly like a style of spirituality, I would say. But I feel that process is at the core of every heightened sense of experience where you like get to just see what is and then everything else just fades away, you know? You kind of
Yeah. I don't know. It was either Alan Watts or Ram Dass who addressed this specifically, but that the core of, you can make an argument, the core of all religion is an experience, is this non-dual experience of
yeah.
being one with everything. And
To
that
get you
religions
to
are
have that experience. Yeah.
institutions constructed around this experience based on the culture of usually one influential person who had this experience or whatever.
Yeah.
And that religions become just a regular institution that operate on power and control and trying to sustain themselves. But like you're pointing to, if religions were really for the service of the people, they would be designed to collapse upon themselves when the time is right. Because as a person
Yeah.
attending that institution, the institution is just a raft that's meant to get you to the experience. And then when you get to the other shore, you don't use the raft anymore. You leave it behind, you know.
Yeah.
But then there'd be nobody left in the church.
Mhm.
I think that's why there's like such a backlash to like psychedelic experiences, I guess, because I feel psychedelic experience like a super direct way to just like inquire, to like really like just question by yourself, and then to like really see. I feel like what religion offers are like very good pointers, and like the better the religion, the better I guess the pointers. But I feel that that's very subjective. But I feel like a pointer's purpose is to point, you know. But I feel I'm just so caught up with the nature of the pointer, I forget to like see what it's pointing at, or like even ignore. I'll just like imagine whatever it's pointing at rather than seeing it for myself. And I feel like we do that in like many different levels in our life. Like for example, I don't know whether I said this or not. Like Antarctica, like everything I know about Antarctica is like secondhand. I personally have not visited Antarctica, you know, but everything I know about is secondhand. You know, there probably could not be an Antarctica. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. But if you but is Antarctica real? I'm like, oh, probably. You know, I don't know. But is it really real? But to sit there and question that and to like see for yourself, I feel that's the heart of what every religion is trying to do. Not like is it there, is Antarctica there or not, but like sit and ask, is the Antarctica really there? How do I know that it's there? You know?
It's funny because that sounds like a flat Earth
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't believe
argument.
in Antarctica.
Oh, oh really?
We're starting to realize.
I bet you there's a community out there that really wholeheartedly does not believe in Antarctica. I'm sure they have t-shirts. But
Yeah, no, they think it's an ice wall around the entire disc. Like we're on a disc instead of a globe, and there's an
No.
ice wall that surrounds the entire thing. I've truly spent some time talking to flat earthers trying to understand, and I haven't understood yet.
Yeah, I feel like we do the same stuff what flat earthers do, but like inwards.
What do you mean?
I like
question things like that, but don't say it out loud.
No. I feel like
Is that what you're saying?
no. Like how flat earthers believe something that's not true, but they wholeheartedly believe it, right? Why? Because they didn't spend the time to like inquire. Is Antarctica really there? I want to see. You know, no one like did that work, right? Because of that, they are like believing in imagination. I feel we are doing the same stuff but inwards, like with like values,
Oh, okay.
judgments. Like
I
we
totally
never
get that analogy.
we never really
Yeah.
like took the time to like really see, fuck, am I the guy experiencing the pain? You know, is the sensation even mine? Who the fuck is experiencing nothing? You're just thinking, oh yeah, this is the ego, and then the ego has like these properties, you know. Then there is me, and the ego is stopping. Yeah, I'm like, bro, who the fuck knows? I don't know.
Yeah, I totally get that. The one disparity I see with that analogy is like, okay, spirituality is like, right, don't take anything on faith.
Yeah.
Rigorous spirituality, like
Yeah.
for me especially, I've been practicing with desires. Like desires have a specific message, and don't believe it. Don't believe the desire. Just see it for what it is and its movement, and like throw out all your concepts, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But something like flat Earth is like
It's more obvious.
you're
You
the
can eat your
mainstream
bag, Vito.
Is this popcorn or something?
Oh,
Yeah, you bring popcorn to book club?
you know, there was like this packet, and I was like listening to Rave, and I forgot that I was holding this. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, good. Go on, Rave.
Yeah.
Yeah, so spirituality is like throwing out all your concepts or whatever. And then something like flat Earth is like, okay, everybody tells you the world is round, and you're throwing that concept out. But what you're doing is you're latching on very tightly to a different concept,
Yeah.
which is this entire embellished idea about blah 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 conspiracy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so that's the shift where, okay, the spirituality is like you're talking about a conceptual Earth that's round. I'm going to throw that out. But now you're talking about a flat Earth. That's another concept. I'm going to throw that out and keep going. You know what I mean? Like
That's like being willfully asleep, just like la 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 la. I want to sleep.
You know what?
And the funny thing is, they all call it waking up. Like all the conspiracy people say everyone's waking
Of
up.
course. That's the most attractive thing you could ever pitch to somebody. It's like gonna open your eyes to truths you could never conceive. Like, and then you're being put into a ditch of thought, like just hanging out down there. It's wild.
I think a more like if I have to like re-modify the analogy, it's like when we are in the past, yeah, that's our inner world is like flat Earth. How we like so firmly believe like there's like fucking wall, Antarctica and shit like this. Yeah, then spirituality comes in with the scientific shit. You know, oh, Earth is round. There's actually Antarctica. There's like North South Pole. There's fucking global warming shit. Earth is round. Stuff like this. Which look it probably is true, but we don't actually know it till we actually see it for ourselves, is the point. And I feel like seeing it for ourselves is like the final step.
Yeah, well, this is where I got to throw Buddhism some props because the Buddha's message was always come and check it out. Don't believe me.
Yeah.
Come sit down and look for yourself.
Yeah. I feel that's the
Throwing
only
down the
way.
gauntlet. Or setting it down gently, maybe, for a Buddhist.
Or you can buy this japas thing for like some money and whatever. It's all bullshit. Because the past few weeks I was like I like spent years like reading lots of books on this self-help and shit like this, and then I realized all the questions I'm asking I can like answer it myself. Like, oh, I'm having anxiety. Yeah, I like tell this. Oh, what do I do? But then I like go on like a consume binge and stuff like this. But then I could just see, okay, where am I feeling this anxiety? Is it even anxiety? Who said it is anxiety? And just like see within, I feel like I would get my answer. But I feel like answer is not important. Like the process of like doing it, I feel is important to communicate at least. It's all a big joke today.
I have so many thoughts. We've discussed a lot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to organize them. Just because Nina, I had a thought when you were discussing your bit. Because I mean, this all started with we started talking about Christianity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'm still like sort of ingesting everything that you guys are throwing out, but it's just good to be talking about this stuff again.
I know. I was in the midst of this. I was like, I've missed this.
I was really laughing.
I'm sorry, go on.
Listening to, I don't know if you guys have heard this one, the one where Alan Watts just really goes on about Jesus and his perspective on it. But you could probably guess. I mean, his whole perspective is that Jesus was just a confused Buddha who didn't have the language. Didn't have the right language to express it.
Yeah.
And
I personally love it. Like, I love his take on it.
Yeah.
Probably.
It's like miracles don't impress me. I take them in stride. Meditators do miracles all the time. Like Jesus was a freak. Like just going on and on. So funny.
It was good.
One guy you guys should check out that I really like find value with. It's a guy called Jitto Krishnamurti, because he does. If you're really interested in self-inquiry, that guy does it to the purest.
I talk about him all the time. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm watching. I think Ray was actually like reading a book.
Freedom.
Yeah, didn't you share a book at one point, Rave?
Yeah, I read Freedom from the Known, which is a book that he wrote, and I just bought another one, which is like a bunch of transcribed talks and conversations called The Awakening of Intelligence. Yeah,
dude,
he's great.
Yeah, he's so forceful with how he puts things too. It's so funny.
It's very different from other people like him.
Yeah. I really like his style, but the thing is, I heard him a year ago. I thought, nice, and I went to the next one. But I'm like revisiting, and I'm like, whatever this guy says clicks, because this guy says, "Sir, please, let's observe, okay? I don't want to do this alone, please." he like begs, right, in a fucking videos. I never took any of it seriously. I'm like, yeah, just give me the information, But then I watch his videos when I'm like feeling intense pain and stuff. I'm like, I search, I'm feeling pain, Jitto Krishnamurti, and he like takes through the question that you should ask. Oh, this hurt is real, but this hurt is being experienced by an image of you. Sir, please be conscious of that. Sir, please. I said, okay, oh God, I'll be conscious. And that style I feel is really direct. And I really
Very
feel,
diverse.
yeah, I feel if there's like a shortcut, that would be it. Honestly, I don't see any other.
I would question what's looking for a shortcut.
Yeah, exactly, right. No, because I feel like this, what he does, I feel is absolutely necessary for just seeing, experiencing. Because I feel all like chanting, breathing, all the stuff, praying, gives you like an heightened state where you can like do this easily. But I feel if you get to that heightened state and you don't do the stuff and you don't use questions to like redirect your awareness to like see the truth for yourself, I think there's just like it's like a psychedelic trip,
Yeah, I see it similarly. So like everyone talks about this process of ripening, and I mean there's also samadhi, right? So it's
Yeah.
like you're cultivating a quiet mind that's concentrated, that's more likely to be receptive and see things clearly. So I really like the image of the ripening that has to happen is like a fruit ripening on a tree, and that's all like the repetitive meditation practice. But then somebody like Krishnamurti comes along and smacks the branch with a stick, trying to knock the fruit out of the tree. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that jolt to try to make it happen. And if you're in
yeah,
the right state and you hear it just right, might break something open for you.
yeah. What are you saying, Boots? You said you were trying to like summarize, and you started with Christianity, and you just like
So he's
went.
overwhelmed with thought.
Yeah, I was
I
over.
mean, I just have so many thoughts. I mean, you guys are just very, very good conversationalists, and
We've been
I
holding
just
it in for months.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
I'm
basically.
feeling like a month's worth of like just itching to talk.
Yeah,
So I guess one thing that really was on my mind hearing everything you guys were talking about was the chapters talk about control, and we've already talked about being truthful and how hiding the truth is a form of control. But just how, like, we're talking about flat earthers and how the lure for flat earthers and really just religion is that you're in on something that other people are not, and you're in some way like there's part of you that's safer than others. And
yeah. The
you
community
know, you know,
definitely. Yeah,
and Nina, you were talking about, like, this is like a message that religion puts out, yet look at all these wars. um and I agree with that. Like, there's a disingenuous root or something in the mix of at least religions in the past. I mean, still today, but I'm trying to be gentle. um but what's interesting to me, what I've always thought was wild, is people who are devout and they believe in like an afterlife, like a heaven or hell sort of. It doesn't have to just be Christianity, but just a belief in that, or a belief in the flat earth, and that your knowledge is going to put you in a better place than others. um it's really hard to be like open and genuine with people while holding that sort of belief, because if I'm like a devout Christian and I believe that if I accept Christ, I am saved, and people who don't are not saved. I mean, the only genuine thing to me to do is to make sure everyone is. And so by being passive, um, then I'm kind of like subjecting people to like the worst possible outcome when they die. I mean, that's kind of like what growing up Catholic felt like to me. I was like, I have something that other people don't, and like, shouldn't like I at least let people know? Like, don't people kind of shouldn't they be told? I mean, that was passed on to me, from the church. It's very interesting. Like it's hard to. I mean, it's just a very complex puzzle to put a young mind through.
Yeah. Also, I feel like in religion itself, not just Christianity, I feel every religion has this conditionality. Oh, if you feel this is true, then you have to like buy this bullshit too. You know, because I don't know. I read like quotes from Bible, and I'm like, wow, this is like pretty good stuff. You know, but then I listen to like other people, their interpretation of it. I'm like, bro, like what? So much. It's I just there's so much unnecessary stuff. Like I feel like there's a thing where if you're buying this much, then you have to like buy the rest too. Like for example, for flat Earth, right? I watched an interview with a flat Earth. The guy was like, "Yo, fuck, look in front of you. Do you see? Do you feel like the Earth is round? Look at you. Look at the front. You see like you see the fucking thing curving? No, right? And then you have all this like lore, like this ice walls and shit. Why Earth is flat? It's all bullshit, right? I feel like, oh, if you buy that right now your Earth is flat, then you have to buy all this other bullshit too. So to like make sense of
It's a
everything
package
else.
deal, that's for sure. It is a full-on package deal.
Yeah,
Some of you don't
exactly.
realize what you're accepting. I mean, it's a weird community, man.
Yeah, I feel
It's like, doesn't it come from fear though? All of it,
Oh
always.
yeah,
That's like
of
the
course.
one, and that's what they were talking about in this chapter
yeah,
too. That it's
Hmm.
like just this constant, the thing that we all operate on is like fear of something,
also like a need
of
of
the truth, I guess.
certainty, security, survival. You know.
Well, it's the
Yeah.
illusion of control that everybody
Oh,
wants to have.
yeah,
Just
true.
like control of what's going on around you.
You know
It's
what?
like if I believe. Go ahead, you're fine.
Gonna say what big question I've been chewing on this week is looking at situations like that, like what you mentioned, Boots, how people can use religion as a way of separating themselves from other people. But then there's such clear instances and things you can see that separation is suffering, and people go through such lengths to alleviate their sense of separation through all different love and whatnot, chasing after
Yeah,
these things. What kind of bind is that on one hand there's so much activity going towards separating myself from somebody else, but on the same hand, like, we're trying so hard to relieve that sense of separation.
I feel like ego makes that. I feel ego makes that. I want to be together like very conditional. So rather, I want to be together with this world. I want to be together with this one hot chick that I see. You know, everyone else, fuck 'em.
Mm.
I feel like ego just narrows down the the view.
Can you say that again, Rave? Can you like what you just shared?
Yeah, so it's like a paradox that I'm pointing out, which is we simultaneously go through so much effort and activity to separate ourselves from other people and saying,
Hmm.
like, oh, I'm not like those people, and judging and making ourselves feel higher or whatever. But then we also go through so much activity to try to ease our sense of separation. Because separation feels like suffering.
Yeah,
If you lock yourself up in a house on a mountain and just be bitter, that's a form of rotting from the inside.
Yeah.
And so it's these competing desires.
that's true. I am actually like going to like ballroom dances and when you dance especially you can't feel it feels like you're dancing together, you know, and I feel like that's like a beautiful experience by itself. But it's interesting how like the most happiest moments, like, oh, you're like getting married, or you're like dancing, or you're like singing, or you're like spending time with someone, or like even this conversation is not like there's not like much sense of separation, and this is like the time I'll probably like remember later on, like 50 years later. I'm like, oh yeah, the Discord server, I remember. But there's like an intense craving for all this other stuff to like not be associated with, I don't know, with poor people, ugly people, who the fuck knows, non-spiritual people, I guess. Yeah, which is very interesting. It's very paradoxical. It doesn't make sense. Yet here I am.
Rave, one reason I asked you to reshare that is because I felt like you might have like a little analogy like you had with the bitter person on the house on a mountain. What's interesting about that is in most of these examples, like you both shared stuff like this too, where it just puts it in, and when I put it into like the terms of like yin and yang, it just makes complete sense to me. Where the opposition is born out of, they're born from each other. So like in yin and yang, you have your bigger black and white portions, and then the seed of each other is found in the counterpart. And so what you're sharing, Rave, I'm not sure which one it is. We could probably go on for a while on which one's which, but that's what it sounds like exactly to me, is just in a lot of needs, and like where those put us, and how all of these things, it's like a never-ending cycle. I think Ram Dass puts it in a way that I will always remember now, because it's just a very good frame of mind to think of it. He talks about how sort of just like developing or just growing into this sort of thinking, you start to notice like you have, or you at once had a expectation that when you were happy, you weren't sad, and that was sort of like a measure of how things were going. I'm happy, so things are going well, and when I'm happy, I'm not sad, and that kind of creates. We start to put space between those things. Like we don't want sadness and we just want happiness. I mean, that's what the chapter just talked about, where it's like people think awakening means you're in a constant state of bliss, but it's not like that at all. But usually, I mean, a lot of this stuff to me, it's almost like, I think we're all like around the same age, where you guys will remember in school, they used to have a projector where they put like a transparent sheet on a piece of glass, and the light would shine and it would reflect on the wall. And so like that's how, especially in math, they use them in math, where they had like the projector and they would write out the stuff so the whole class could see it. I loved that stuff when I was in school. Like I thought that was so cool. But like what I like too is like you could get markers and you could like color over like the transparent sheets and like merge them and like create different colors and stuff. Like that stuff was cool to me. I don't know why. But I kind of like have a mental image of doing that with yin and yang and these other sort of topics that we discuss. Just kind of like putting that filter over it and looking at it that way. And another 90s thing, like what was the little thing, like the binoculars you look through, but you click it and it gives you a different picture each time.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I'm
Forget
barely
what they were
remembering
called.
that. Yeah, what
I
the
know
heck
what
were
those
they
are.
called? You had those little like circular film things that you would insert.
It's so
Yep.
funny
they would
that you
spin
say this,
around.
Boots.
A lot of them were like Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it probably was like a Kodak thing or something.
Yeah, it's so funny you say this, Boots. I literally use the exact same example. So I'm in this like personality type thing, right? So I literally use the exact same example that you're seeing to like see different concept, because you might not know this. This is like a way of thinking, right? Where you're like seeing the concepts in a non-personal way, where like just it's like you're like sweeping frames in that Kodak camera thing, yeah. But there's like another kind of people, yeah. The way they think, it's like they're just building this one huge giant concept. So for them, it's not like a Kodak thing where they're just like consuming a lot of concepts. They're just like stacking one. They're like making one big concept, but they're like taking a lot of just sensory input. Mm. One kind of people are like they really love adventurous stuff, like gathering experiences and stuff, different experiences. But they have like this one model that they like keep fine tuning and building that like works on the world. I just thought I would like share that. Nothing to do with spirituality, just some personality stuff.
I could easily see it being overwhelming too, just having so many of those on at the same time, and
Yeah.
all of them being on your mind. I mean,
Yeah.
I can speak for myself; it definitely is. But
So when do you want to guys end it?
It's not usually a question of desire. It's usually just
when do we
energy
run out of
running
stuff
out.
to talk
Things,
about?
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, it's also different too. I mean, I got off work, a little over an hour ago, so it's very different. Usually we're like, all right, have a good weekend, and now it's like, all right, have a good Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things change.
How's your class, Rave?
Yeah, how's it?
It's cool. It's just cool to be in the same room as like a monk, really. It's not so far the teaching hasn't really been anything groundbreaking that I haven't heard. It's mostly just traditional Buddhist stuff. Although he's introduced some stuff that's new for me, so that's cool. But yeah, just like seeing a person who's very light, always like smiling, laughing, in response to the little stuff that we throw at him, It's
Yeah.
just cool. And like there's been times, so it's cool. We do the class and then we go to the Buddha hall. I don't know if I explained this, and do like ritual type chanting and then go to lunch. There's a few activities. And there's times where like there's downtime and we'll just be in the hall. It's like a converted old Catholic boarding school. So very like elementary school vibes, and we'll just be in the hallway. And like I'll just lock in conversation with him for a while, just talking about some random part of reality and how to practice with it, and like various teachings or whatever. So it's a cool experience to be present with all that.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds really good.
It is cool. And there's a handful of people in the community, small, but yeah, it's nice. I appreciate the tightness of it, because the people that show up, they really want to be there,
It must be neat to have that community and just probably like a different energy around.
Yeah. And so I do that on Saturdays, and then Sunday morning there's just a meditation for like an hour, which there's like pretty much no talking at all. And you just go and you just sit in a room, and there's a handful of people again, and it's just dead quiet. So nice. And it's led by the same monk. He just comes in and sits down, rings a bell, and we all sit. It's super like quiet to the point where you can hear the person across the room from you swallow in their throat. And like the difference in energy between sitting in a room like that with other people versus at home is like powerful. It's really cool.
You find it
Super neat.
easier or harder?
It's easier, I find easier, more powerful to get your focus going. So like things quiet, like your mind matches the energy of the room, which is very quiet. So it's easier to bring sustained focus to whatever you're trying to focus on.
It's nice.
I can see it being nerve-wracking if you're not used to that, because it is kind of intense, because any little movement you make, you'll feel like you're disturbing people. But
Yeah, that would be me. And like, I don't
Yeah,
want
me
to.
too.
I'm gonna slip, and like everyone's like, "Oh, this guy."
Like, I almost feel like it wouldn't work for me because of that. Like I would just be so worried about so many things.
I mean, that's just what you work with in that moment. But yeah, it's definitely good to have some practice under your belt before going into a situation like that.
It makes me wonder if, like, the Zen temple, everyone's just stumbling everywhere. They're like, can't help it.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, it's like funny. Oh, sorry, you can keep going if you.
I was just gonna say that it was like less pressure when I was at a big retreat because there's like a hall with 50 or so people. Some of them was your first time, so like people are adjusting frequently. It's not a big deal, you know. It's a little less intense.
Well, I definitely got through most of my notes. Does anyone have anything else, or is there anything else you guys want to cover? And do we want to keep doing this at this time every week?
This works for me, but
Yeah, it works for me too.
I think
Yeah, I think it works for
my
me too. Yeah.
oh good. Well, that works. It works for everybody.
God bless.
And obviously, we can be flexible if anything changes, as we've already shown. Pretty flexible.
It's a mark of enlightenment as being very adaptive to the way things are.
No, we are masters of Wu Wei. That's it.
Yeah.
It's funny how silly it is. Sometimes I will think about like, oh no, I don't want to like let the group down or something, and then I check myself again, and I was like, this is the group I don't have to worry about as much.
Isn't that nice?
Well, it was like even when Rave came to visit, I was like, oh, I like hope the house is clean, like all these like really just trivial things that like didn't matter. I'm like, oh, I hope he has a good time. Like I'm all worried about what his judgments are gonna be when he comes, and then I'm like, I have the perfect person coming right now because of all these conversations that we've been having and everything. Like this is the last person that's gonna come with judgments at the door.
I just start coming in and complaining about how
Yeah.
disgusting.
Imagine, oh my God, Nina, what the fuck? This is disgusting.
I mean,
Sounds like
Yeah.
Rave.
well,
You gotta do more self-reflecting. Yeah, I kept this house ugly so that you could see within yourself deeper. Yeah, you should be thanking me. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
it's so
now, Rave has meditated in a very quiet temple. So Nina, if he comes back, that's like the bar's been raised for.
Just whisper. Yeah.
and
Don't talk to him. Just
now
whisper.
Dave is divine. I mean, he's basically the almighty now, so he's gonna be leading the teachings at my house when he comes visit.
Yeah.
My teachings deal with shame and guilt, so be prepared.
Perfect.
You're now the guru.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome you're doing that though.
It is really cool, and I'm just surprised that it's like where we grew up, basically. Right? 'Cause
Yeah, and
isn't it?
it's supposed to be a pretty hot spot. Like they get some pretty big name people coming through there, which is cool.
Oh my.
Because Jersey and Zen doesn't really like.
Yeah, I don't think of Jersey and Zen as like, partners or anything like that.
I know, especially where
What
we
part of
grew up.
US would you call Zen? Like, you know,
What part of what?
US, would you say it's Zen? Like,
Oh,
That's a good question.
Sedona, Arizona?
I don't think of anything in America being Zen.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
After Alan Watt died, it died too.
I think there were some. My one buddy went to North Dakota or something, and found like some crazy Buddhist gardens or whatever, way out in the hills.
My
Oh.
uncle was a Zen Buddhist, and he had, I mean, it
Whoa.
was somewhere in New York.
Nice.
Like,
That's pretty.
I don't know.
Nice.
I feel like there's places. Like
Yeah.
it's funny, Utah's primarily Mormon, so there's a lot of people who are practicing with LDS or whatever. So, but there's like these little pockets of really, really spiritual places. Like if you went to Moab with me, like that's a place where people are very free.
Yeah, there's something in
So
the
it's
air
so
out
funny. Yeah, it's funny. Like there's pockets everywhere.
there.
But it is. I had just gone back to visit. At the end of the summer here, like in the last few weeks of July, and I've been away for a while, so it was interesting to have this new perspective. I guess it was a perspective I've always had, but with like more like a quieter mind to sit there and just observe everybody there.
Talking about
Friends,
coming home.
family,
Did
yeah, friends, family, random people, like just having this like felt like I had on like X-ray vision and
Yeah.
just like getting to experience like how much like anxiety and stress and like you can see it on everybody when you actually just sit there and observe. And I didn't mean it in like a judging way, but just like, oh wow, I'm noticing like that person seems like they might be anxious right now, or you can tell like in their tone of voice, or just like the way they're like, shuffling around with their stuff, or and Raven and I had a great conversation about it because I was like, it made me realize a lot of things about myself that I didn't think like I was so clouded in my mind. It helped like the breeze roll through and everything just became clear for like a moment. I was like, wow, I never realized all this stuff. So it felt like a big growth period. It was pretty cool.
Went to like
Sorry,
sharing?
that's my own personal things.
No,
No,
that was awesome.
no. Went to like sharing last time? I can only like remember like there were like some rich people, and then what is rich or something? What is wealth? I went like that line of question.
Hmm.
Yeah. What was that again?
Yeah. No,
Is the
that
same
was
thing?
we were out in Telluride. Yeah, it's funny. Like ever since we brought up the whole people are like trees thing,
Yeah.
and then talking about how we're not really separate from each other,
Mhm.
um, which I've been exploring this too. Of like, I feel like growing up, my family they didn't mean to portray it this way, but like when I was dealing with a lot of anxiety, that was like a little bit crippling for life. Um, they would make me feel like it was bad to feel that way. So I would do a lot of hiding and like not talk about it with people. And like still, I sometimes don't bring it up to a lot of people. And I would used to celebrate when someone would be like, "Oh, I never even noticed that you're anxious," you know? And then there would be this like moment where I'm like, "Great, nobody noticed." And then another moment where I'm like, "Oh no, nobody noticed."
Yeah.
So, it made me now like after we've had these conversations and been reading these books and listening to things and everything, it's made me like look at people differently in the sense of yeah, we are all going through the same thing. So I've just it's kind of interesting. So when we were out in Telluride, I was like, wow, like you can kind of see a different air of people, like what like they almost have their own like energy going on all the time, and it can tell a lot about a person. And I can't even like describe what it was. You
You can
just kind
feel
of
it.
feel it too. Yeah, you just feel it. And
Yeah.
but
I mean,
that made
we
me
call it
feel
vibes. That's what a lot of people. It's like they have
oh
weird
yeah,
vibes.
it is vibes for
Yeah.
sure. And that's why when I was back home and I was like, wow, like there's a lot of
Vibes.
people out here, yeah, with these vibes. But it was cool to like not absorb the vibes and just kind of be like, all right, that's
You be
happening.
the
And
vibe. Yeah.
yeah, so it's helped me personally with like anxiety stuff because you start noticing like little things about people and you're like, oh wow, they must be anxious too. And oh, like and everyone's so like in their own heads just doing their thing like and not present at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's
What I've
fun because I was on the beach, so on the beach you see it all, like people not paying attention to what their kids doing and you're like watching what the kids doing and like, oh, something's going on over here, but they have no idea, and you're like waiting for them to notice. Like, there's all these like random stuff happening at once.
Yeah.
So it was cool.
What I've noticed with myself, like when you watch your own self unravel a bit and like let go of things that don't serve you, then you start to feel a bit of like compassion when you see people all tight because you can get a sense that they're holding on very tightly to things that they don't need, and that's kind of like
Yeah.
just
Absolutely.
predicament that you can bring compassion to.
But that's
So-
why.
Mhm.
I'm
Oh
sorry.
man, we love that one.
After we wrap this up.
I was just gonna say quickly was like it's so hard for me at least to like not absorb that from somebody because I feel
Yeah.
I'll like feel empathy is like a buzzword now, but like I'll feel like this intense like empathy because like we all have those feelings sometimes, and like that suffering, but yeah, you can't really take it away from anyone. No one could take it away from me if I was feeling it. So it's like it can be a sticky situation in your brain.
Sure. Oh man, did I lose it? It might come back.
So I'll
I'm
then add
sorry. I feel like it's my fault.
No, I mean it was a good point was brought up and we all just like wanted to share. Go ahead, Vito. My thought will come back.
Yeah, yeah, where will it go, I think the most deceptive thing about anxiety itself, I realize with like very intense emotion, it's very hard to like introspect. I don't know how to explain it. It's very hard to like look within and do the mindfulness stuff after like a certain threshold. Like when the cravings like intense because I feel like I'm caught up in the movie so much, it's just like super hard. That's where I like started like chanting and stuff. Like or like saying om om om, like listening to like a video or like breath work, praying or something. I feel like it like gets me down to a level where I can now do mindfulness. But chatting and all never like solves it though. It just like gets me to a point where now I can like do this mindfulness stuff, which I find is interesting.
It's a constricting and consuming mind state, often filled with judgment. I feel like anxiety, and it's once you're in a constricting mind state, very hard to see clearly. It's tunnel vision.
Ruins the vibes, yeah.
It's definitely a bad vibe. That's what it feels like. It's a bad vibe.
What did maybe wasn't it from Bo Burnham, Nina, that he gave that great analogy for anxiety is like trying to hold on to a bull being like trying to hold on to your nervous system or something like that.
Oh gosh. I
His
have to think
special
about it.
on Netflix was very good.
The
Yeah, you saw
Inside
that?
Out.
Yeah, I guess we all watched it during in that month.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
funny because Rave and I watched it like 3 times. Like
Yeah.
we must have watched. Did we watch it twice when you were here?
I think just once, but we had both seen it 3 times.
Very good.
And we were kind of hoping that you guys would watch it one time.
I watched only the half
Yeah,
of it, guys. I'll be
definitely.
honest. I watched half of Inside Out, but then I got bored. I'm like, bruh, I don't want to listen.
Are you talking? Are you talking about Inside Out or Inside?
Inside. Bo Burnham is a comedy special.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, there's like a moment where I was just like, you know what? I don't want to like start contemplating about. I don't know. It was like guilting me somehow. I felt like
Hmm.
it's like I'm all doing all this stuff and just like I don't know. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I watched half. I think
It was
it's really well put.
it was a little uncomfortable at times, but I think that's intentional.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I agree. I think I mean I had a lot of friends that had a hard time watching it because it's just very real, very
Mhm.
like direct. I mean we were just talking about people being direct. It's pretty heavy. I mean I deeply appreciate everything about that special and thought it was just good and it was entertaining as well. But there were certain pieces I was like, wow, this is good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It really bent my concepts because it's just so unlike any other piece of entertainment that you could come across, really. It was just a very well communicated
Yeah.
story, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
Very well written too. Holy shit.
I want you to remember your thought boots really badly. Which is why you won't remember it, right?
Yeah, it'll eventually show up. I mean,
After we put that, after we all
there's a
like
good
leave.
chance it could. Yeah, right. I mean, there's a good chance that it shows up and I don't even recognize it as the thought that I have lost. It's just like, oh, here's my thought. A lot of good stuff, though. It's been a long. I mean, it's been a while, but I didn't realize how long it had actually been until I guess we fully had all of our thoughts come out and started talking. I'm like, yeah, I really haven't been talking about this stuff as much.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have noticed though, and I guess like obviously there's been like different stressors coming up in life, but like I haven't felt as, and the only way I can describe it is like cleansed since
Spray laundry.
we have talked. Yeah,
Laundry was
it's like
starting to
it is
smell.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean like it's strange how it usually makes me feel a little bit lighter after.
Yeah. Oh, I think I might have remembered my thing.
Go for it.
So something you were talking about compassion, Rave.
Yep.
I don't know how much related it is. Like you just, I remember to have this conversation a lot, and when you brought up compassion, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to bring this up with them. I ran into so many discussions about this, like a concept of awakening and waking up to. I mean, the chapter talked about it, where like the Buddha said, like the totality is awakened. And so like the immediate thing that people run to is like, okay, so like why is there like so many bad things, and do we have a responsibility for these bad things? And my thing that I usually tell people in this sort of conversation is that all these good and bad things are in a relationship with each other. Like that's how we like measure them. And um it's like to have a good time, you also didn't have a bad time. And so there's like a weird like thought that comes up where it's like, well, like my good time depends on what a bad time would be. And so when I bring that up to people in this whole idea of what do you do about the badness in the world or the wrongs in the world if everything is, non-dual and there's no separation. And they're like, a lot of people share that they're like, if I thought that like my effort wasn't going to contribute to the complete annihilation of bad, I don't know what I would do with myself. I'd be depressed and unmotivated. And I'm like, that's a really interesting thing, because you're setting up a very like heavy condition for all of your efforts, where you wouldn't be doing what you're doing unless that outcome happens. And if I put that, we were talking about transparent sheets, if I just put that film over a different thing, like love, like how you have love in a relationship, I would say that you love someone completely conditionally, and they could do something or be something that you just totally reject, and I wouldn't recognize that as full like actual love. And so I don't know, I think that like accepting that your efforts don't just releasing yourself from what the total outcome is and just make it about your efforts uh, definitely brings in a more compassionate tone to a lot of the things that you do, because the outcome is just not even I guess like thought about.
Yeah, that expectation
Yes.
to an outcome is like a huge thing. I feel that's like the driver of the ego,
It's a big fat attachment.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
big fat tap.
It's a huge attachment.
Mm-hmm. The
And
art
it's
is
wild
the
how much it comes up in these. It's like, well, what's the point? And I'm like,
You know,
I thought it was just good to be this way. Like, why does there have to be a point?
you know what's funny about all this stuff? And I was like inquiring about this like last week, right? And I realized, you know what? Okay, you're having expectations, right? I was like, you know what? Okay, I want to see the nature of this fulfillment I get once I get this expectation satisfied. Like when I'm really hungry, eating something, or like many other things. Like when your expectations are fulfilled, and when you like look at that nature, right? When you're like really happy, you don't like think about anything. So so it's so bizarre because the entire ego is creating this highway for you to experience a moment where there's no ego, and that's what like love, like or dance, all the stuff so that it doesn't get to exist. I feel that's like a mind fuck. You know what I mean? It's,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I feel like that goes a little bit back to separateness versus what did I say the other one was? Preserving versus ending your separateness,
yeah,
Yeah, but back to compassion, it's like it really feels like the only way to do it sustainably is to look at compassion as a type of yoga that you do in this game that you play very sincerely. Just this is what I'm gonna do and let everything else be what it is.
yeah.
It's interesting how quickly and easily that bind comes up. Even in like the most like what we consider wholehearted efforts for something to be, good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They have it's called the Bodhisattva Vows and Zen and certain traditions of Buddhism that like point at this paradox directly. Like suffering is infinite, and I vow to end it. Like I'm just vowing to do something that's impossible, and that's fine. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah. That's something I'm very curious to like introspect about. Once I feel like I figured like other stuff out. Like to see if, to like make that choice for myself. You know what? I'm gonna like go back and help people, even though I don't have to. I wanna see why I do that. Apart from like ego shit. You know what I mean?
That's a good question to ask. Yeah.
But for me, it's not the time. I'm not there yet. Well, where should I be? I don't know. The book points that paradox out, where you're like, why would like someone just help with the thing? Uh, why would someone help and like another person? I think in chapter two or something, which is something that's bugging me. It's because like he said, because reality has in its nature to awaken all of itself. So you're awake, and now you're just helping other people to become awake, I guess.
I think if you're leading with empathy, you can't really go wrong, because if you're just
No.
doing like, if you're treating others the way that you want yourself to be treated, you can't really go wrong,
Yeah.
and like some people struggle with it, and the way the clever way I've worded empathy lately is just be selfish for other people.
Yo, yo, that's amazing, dude. You came up with that? Wow, I'm writing that down.
I mean,
Yeah, that's
being
good.
selfish is like, super easy. So like doing it for other people could be like seen as somewhat easy. Just do what you do for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes I
I
feel you
mean,
need to have empathy even for yourself. That attitude, I'm going to be selfish for this other guy. Fuck it.
hmm
And I feel it's a very interesting perspective. Because you're
I
like you're
mean,
using
it immediately
ego.
runs into problems because like we all want something different, and that's where we just have our mind blown. They're like, "What? You don't like this?"
Yeah.
It's much more complicated, but it's a good place to start.
Yeah, no.
It's like in a relationship where somebody is doing what they would want someone to do for them.
Yep.
It's like that whole like, yeah. Like I don't understand why you're not happy. I would love it if someone did this for me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and then it's like,
Like
yeah,
exactly, you're being selfish. You're not asking me what I would like to do. It's so funny.
yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting. I have my friend. Uh, if I'm upset, she like starts talking about stuff that she likes. about,
Mhm.
and I'm like, and I can see it as like a very, I appreciate the gesture, you know. She's like, oh, let me like talk about what I like in like a way where it's not like, oh, like it's very self-centered, you know. It's more like, oh, let me share what I like so that because what she likes is very personal to her, right? So it's like, oh, let
Mhm.
me share what I like so that this guy also like feels better. I don't know what the fucking logic is, but I really appreciate the
I think
gesture though.
it comes from a place of wanting to help and
Yeah,
just not
yeah, yeah,
knowing how. But like the best thing that I feel like anyone could really do is just say, "How can I support you in this moment?" Because
yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't really even know what somebody needs. We do try to like tackle those problems with what we would. We I guess we a lot of times we feel like we only know how to make ourselves feel better.
Yeah. That's a really
And
good
that's just
question.
it. You really can't make somebody 100%. Like, I don't think you can really like take everything away from somebody. Like, you can't take all of that suffering away from someone. It's like impossible. So you shouldn't help anyone. That's where I'm getting at.
Sometimes I don't even think people want to be helped, you know. They just like want to like talk about it. Just like, just fine,
Yeah,
you know.
well, that listening is still a form of helping.
Oh
Like, you don't have
yeah,
to actively be doing anything.
yeah,
So it's just like the way you look at it. Just giving somebody what they need in that moment.
yeah.
Hmm.
There is like a thing where you kind of like supposed to understand without other person actually saying it, you know. You kind of like indirectly like kind of talk about it, I guess. But it's just better to just directly ask, you know. Yeah.
I think sometimes that people think it's like a failure if you don't immediately understand or know what somebody needs to. Like they almost take it personally. They're like, I can't fix this problem.
Yeah, and a huge trip up of trying to help is assuming somebody's suffering when they're really not.
Uh-huh.
You're just coming in and disturbing a system that's already running smoothly. You know.
Yeah, because in reality, you're uncomfortable by whatever they're doing. I'm
Yeah.
so guilty of that. Like, I have to like look into myself sometimes and be like, am I uncomfortable or are they uncomfortable? Am
Yeah.
I stressed or are they stressed by, or, am I stressed by how they're operating?
Yeah.
Or,
I had that
yeah,
moment.
it's like,
Oh man. Yeah.
I had that moment this week. I looked up an old church buddy on Facebook, and like his profile picture looked kind of sad. And I immediately was like, "Oh man, this poor guy!" Like blah blah blah. Like you have no freaking idea like what the hell he's up
no.
to right now. You know, I haven't talked to him in over 10 years.
Mhm.
Your mind automatically creates this world where he's just tormented.
Yeah. Yep. Dude,
Exactly.
social media, man. What a
Man.
tool.
Yeah,
It's funny.
I unsubscribe from the shit. It's just like Instagram is basically depressed people being fake happy. That's it. It's like, bro, I don't want to be that, you know, because it's like depressed people being like fake happy. Then you look at the happy pictures and think, fuck, I'm depressed, you know, like what the fuck. I want to like go to that cafe, you know, and the ego kicks in. Yeah, then you go to the cafe and like, damn, I don't feel nothing, you know. Maybe like the initial like once people like start commenting and stuff, like wow. After that, it's like, what the fuck am I doing here?
How is
That is
everyone
like,
except me traveling? That's what I always get. How is everyone always traveling?
I think talking about that Bo Burnham special, that he really hit the nail on the head with that.
Yeah.
Just like social media just being just the highlights. And
Mm.
it's impossible.
I've made everyone crazy with my constant reference to Bo Burnham. Like I'll just start like singing out one of his jams. They're so good.
Oh,
I love the
Jeffrey Bezos.
It's so
Jeffrey
good.
Bezos.
When I'm in the mood, I've just got those on and singing along and dancing like an
Yeah.
idiot.
If Jeff Bezos doesn't wake up to one of those songs and actually get pumped, I don't know what could ever motivate a human being, because
So
I wake up, I'm not even Jeffrey Bezos, and I use that as a pump up song.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm cheering
it
him
is.
on, whatever he's doing.
I sent Rave the some people are putting that song over like Amazon workers delivering packages during
Oh
like
my
natural
God.
disasters and
Oh.
things.
Oh my God,
So
dude.
funny.
Oh
It's
my
like
gosh.
Whenever I
just
see an
really-
Amazon truck now, I'm like, come on, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's good. Yeah, he hits
He
it
had
on the head
two
with the
songs.
Instagram stuff.
He had 2 songs dedicated to Jeff Bezos, and I mean, that is
I know.
wild. And
That
they
was
were,
know.
before he went to space too. So
I know.
yeah.
that's
Oh my
crazy.
gosh. Could you imagine what you do now?
And
Yeah.
the second one got me so good because I was like, no way, he's doing this again. And it's just him wearing some ridiculous. I guess the idea is like he bought it all off Amazon, and he's just like this fuzzy
Ghillie
creature
suit or
singing
whatever
about
it's
Jeff
called.
Bezos.
I didn't even consider that he bought it off Amazon, but you're probably right. He probably bought that entire thing on Amazon.
Yeah.
I was so just amazed with his this just the fit. Like, it sounds wild to say the production of it, but it's like
Uh-huh.
production
Yeah.
because it's one guy.
It's
Oh
mind-boggling.
yeah.
The lighting,
The lighting
and
is
The
so
lighting, the
good, dude.
music,
Holy
the
shit.
composition.
choreography. I mean, that was all. There was
Mhm.
choreographed stuff. Like, he might have been
Well-
dancing, but he was freaking clicking stuff at the right time. And
Huh?
oh,
Mhm.
Did you ever watch his other stuff? Because he's like that's like his thing. Like he's always like carefully like put together by the minute. So like if
I've
you watch his
listened to
other
this stuff.
specials,
I did. I rewatched since watching that, and I have like a deeper appreciation. But before that, I never really got that. Like, I thought he had good content. I guess like
Mhm.
I play piano, and so like watching him play piano and juggle, I was like, man, that's so cool. And but I don't know, like this to me like just put a whole different perspective on Bo Burnham, and kind of going through his stuff again. I'm like, oh man, yeah, it's just like you said, like he's been doing this for a while, but he just like
Yeah.
channeled it into one thing like for a whole year. And you're just
Mhm.
like, whoa! Like, is there gonna be
Yeah.
like a second one eventually? Like,
I had the
Outside.
exact same feeling. Like I've always thought Bo Burnham, like fine, I'm not gonna go out of my way to watch. Like the first person who told me to watch this special, I kind of rolled my eyes. And then you watch, you sit down, and it's like just mind-blowingly. I still think it's categorically different from all the other stuff he's done. It's just like a
Yeah.
complete masterpiece. You know?
yep.
Well, and it's crazy because it could only have happened like it really is just so relevant and like could only exist if this
Yeah, like
happened.
had he just gone back on stage and been doing comedy, it would be the same. Like, okay, Bo
Yeah.
Burnham, big deal.
Mm-hmm. So interesting. Watching Bo Burnham and talking about it with you all made me think this. But this thought is attached to way long ago when we watched Soul, and it's also attached to talking about the humanness in this chapter. I'm connecting a lot of stuff
Whoa.
now. But it's really cool. I think it's a cool connection. So something that Soul made me think about in connection to like humanness is, if you remember in Soul, when they're in like when they're in the selecting area where they're developing traits and deciding who they're going to be and whatnot, you learn that like they can like see pizza and they can like look at pizza, but they can't actually taste it. And so when when I can't remember number one or whatever the little soul was, when she goes down to Earth and has pizza the first time and tastes it, it's like addicting. They're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I want to do this all the time. And so that sort of connected me to the fact that that's sort of like the transcendental experience or whatever of being human. Like some would argue that soul is like of a higher being or whatever, being a soul in the little, I don't know what you'd call it, the kindergarten for souls, whatever that place was. But like really, like to that soul, having that slice of pizza was like just an enlightening experience in a way. Like it was amazing. So connecting that, connecting this to Bo Burnham and all these things, like I think I have like this new appreciation for just like being able to like absorb this content, and it's truly like really good experience, and it requires like all these like physical mechanisms like ears and eyes, and then I have to be able to talk to you all about it. And I guess all of that sort of just connects for me the I guess the transcendental nature of being human, and I think that this chapter was sort of talking about where we usually, because we talked about religion and like the put down of the human being and like on ourselves and how we have original sin, but discarding that and being like, no, it's not like that. Like we're all actually pretty great, and we can talk about Bo Burnham.
Yeah, it reminds me of the I guess it's the more Hindu flavor version of the universe where God gets bored just being one, so he manifests as the many just to get lost and have a good rocking time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I'm really glad that you guys watched and liked Bo Burnham.
Yeah, likewise. Me and Nina were keeping it under wraps. We're like, we're not going to swamp the group with this. They don't care. They don't want to hear about
We
it.
were like
I loved
ready.
it.
We were ready to suggest it as like okay, we
Okay.
should watch it and I'll talk about it. And we
Yeah.
were sitting together actually. That it was the week we were together, and we are like, should we say it? I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's like the right flavor for the group. I don't know. We're like contemplating. It's funny.
I
Because
So
we
yeah.
mentioned Bo
I
Burnham,
definitely
and we were like,
watched it and talked
Boots
about it.
didn't really seem like he liked it, so
Yeah, because I think we brought it up, but you didn't say anything about it.
Really?
So we were like, oh no.
we
Yeah,
brought up
we were
this.
like,
This was
oh, we
probably
should
before you
watch
watched it, and we
inside.
brought up like, have you ever, heard Bo Burnham or whatever? And you were like, yeah, he's fine. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
we
maybe
were
not.
like,
Hey, that's what I said. Hey, like Bo Burnham never like got me. I was like, oh yeah, he's good. And then this, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly.
mhm.
Yeah,
Good.
definitely do it. I mean, for the record, I'll take any suggestion that you guys have and watch it openly.
Well, it was funny because after you were like, yeah. Yeah, no, but it was funny because even after you were like, yeah, he's okay or whatever, we both were like, oh no, we shouldn't have brought it up. I guess they don't like it. We're not going to bring it up again.
Well, we just, I mean, it's so like relevant to a lot of the things I think we're talking about. It got merged in eventually.
Yeah, I mean, the one bit he literally goes on, the one called comedy, is like him lamenting about like, is my job doing anything to help out all the
Yeah.
suffering in the world?
Yes. Yep, I
That
remember.
one I felt so relatable. That was early on too.
Mm-hmm. That was the first song, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
white
he
and I'm
does
here to
not hold
save the
back.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah. White, I'm here to save
Oh
the
my
day.
gosh. Yeah. Well, I hate if I came off so strong before. I definitely didn't feel that
No,
strongly
no,
about it,
No,
but
we're
no.
dramatizing the whole episode,
Yeah,
but
we
that
are.
was like the thought process.
So it was just funny because we were like really enthusiastic about it, but we wanted you guys to
it's
feel
like
the same way.
no.
And you were just kind of like, oh yeah, he's okay. And we were like, okay, our hearts are breaking.
Oh.
No, it wasn't that
No, but
bad.
it's okay. We're good because we got here anyway, right? So
Yeah, we
it doesn't
did.
matter.
And I didn't even need a recommendation. I'm just kidding. No, I definitely would have though. I mean, it would have. It was so good. I've watched it twice, and I definitely will watch it again. Um, really,
Yeah,
really like it.
Well, I always tell Rave I want to do like viewing parties where we're like on talking about the movie like as it's happening.
If you guys think we're gonna get through a movie together, you guys are nuts.
No.
we if we had a rule where it's like, all right, everyone have a notepad, and every 30 minutes we'll take a session to talk. Like,
Yeah. As I said it,
Stay up all night.
yeah. That'll have to be for Friday.
I thought I
Oh,
have
man.
thought about that, but just from the very beginning, we all like share a lot, and I was just like, I think if we watched it before, we'd probably get a lot more discussed. Actually,
Definitely.
Mhm.
We'd all be
I think you
having a
started the
pause
viewing
and-
parties, though, Nina. You were the first one to recommend, like, can you please watch Soul?
because I understand that stuff. It's a little easier for me, I think, sometimes when I have the visuals and everything.
Yeah, for
So.
sure. I mean, so much from that movie has stuck with me and like just bridged my like thinking and understanding on all that we talk about.
Yeah.
The imagery of anxiety is one that I still often conjure of like you're just a tiny being wrapped inside this monstrous cloud circle of a big giant ugly thing. You know?
I mean, how
Sure you remember
powerful is that? Like a whole generation, like that's their Disney movies. I think we
Mhm.
talked about this. Like Disney movies for us was like your parents are gonna die. Like
Yeah, your parents are dead and that's
like
it.
Bambi and Simba and everyone are losing their parents. Your parents
Yeah.
are, and
Your
now
toys are
it's
talking and fighting when you're not looking.
yeah, right. Things are moving around when you're not looking at them.
Yeah.
I mean, Shrek just, shook up that meta. Shrek's like, Princess was an ogre. Well, it's like accepting your true self. Like, I'm really an ogre. This is not my real self.
Yeah, Shrek did really shake that up. I didn't realize that until now that you said that.
Shrek's become such a meme, but like, I look at it sometimes and I'm like, it's not as bad as other ones. It's pretty upfront with like everything that it addresses. But it's such a
Also
meme
not
nowadays.
It isn't Disney though, right? It's DreamWorks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah, Disney, what's up with that?
yeah. Disney. I never watched it. No, I never
Yeah,
watched
same.
it. Well, if we want to do another movie, I'm gonna keep my eyes peeled for that.
Yep, that
Yeah,
works for me.
Mm,
No, I sort of came out of my under my rock of no entertainment to see Inside, and now I've since crawled back under. So
Brave, what do you think of the Untouchables?
you're asking me what?
Yeah, because we watched it together.
Oh, yeah. How's that?
It's obviously forgettable, so
No, I forgot what that was called. I totally remember. It was good.
I don't think it was that like profound really, but it was I'm gonna keep thinking.
Yeah, find one for us though. One will come. It'll show up in the most unexpected way, and you'll know that's it.
They all have, honestly, all the suggestions. So
Oh yeah, I've seen that. It's pretty good. Yeah, it's a good animated series. It's kind of like animated like an anime sort of. But talking about it's kind of like based on like the video game that came out a long time ago. It's really good.
Oh, there was an anime. Remember, Nina, when I was at your house, Spence
yes,
recommended one. It's supposed to
yeah,
be really deep and
about the pig
philosophical.
parents.
Yeah,
The
I don't
pig
remember.
parents. It's an old one. I forget what it's called. There was this little girl, and she goes to this She had like a circus? Where's she at?
I'll see if I can find.
It was something like it was on Prime, like Rise. I can't remember. It's a really famous one. It's from a long time ago. Spirited Away. Yeah, that's
Oh,
it.
all of Miyazaki, man. That was so good.
I never watched it. We were like,
Spirited Away?
no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a huge deal. It was a huge deal.
Man.
All of Miyazaki's films, I think, are very, very good. And then when you learn more about Miyazaki, you'll just have a more appreciation. Like, he's a huge pacifist. He didn't believe in war at all. Yet almost every single one of his films include war. It probably involves like when he grew up and stuff. Being in Japan.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to watch that one, I guess. So make a point.
Yeah,
to
you
see
got
it.
some watching to do. If you have,
I guess so.
there's so many great Miyazaki films. Spirited Away is a good first one. The one that I never think I'm gonna like, but every time I'm like, holy crap, this is so much better than I thought it was gonna be, is Porco Rosso. And I never think I'm gonna like it, and then like I watch it, and I'm like, there's like a couple scenes where it's like, this is very, very good. So, but I recommend all of them. Well, guys, I have to hop off, but I'm really glad that we got to meet up, and I'm good. I should be good next week. I'm actually going to the beach next week, but I'm coming back on Thursday, and I plan to leave like earlier. Yeah, I'm going to the beach for the week.
Fun. It's a good time to go to the beach.
That's right. What is there a beach close to Tennessee? That's actually is it
Um,
North Carolina?
No.
South Carolina. It's Hilton Head.
Oh, cool.
Hilton Head Island. Yeah, I've been going there for a long time. It's very nice, and it's very not. It's a little bit more commercial, but it's much less commercial than any other beach. And I'll at least go out and just like sit and watch the ocean for a very long time and do nothing. That's like my thing.
Yeah.
That's what I did when I went to the beach. It's so nice.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you're
Dave's
always
the
keeping on point.
library.
Pressure's on. Pressure's
I think
on.
I think I do have one. Hang on. I think it was a good one this week. Let's see. Can everyone hear me? I'm back on speaker.
Yep.
Hmm.
Navigate this user interface. All right, here we go. An awkward comparison by Rumi. This physical world has no two things alike. Every comparison is awkwardly rough. You can put a lion next to a man, but the placing is hazardous to both. Say the body is like this lamp. It has to have a wick and oil, sleep and food. If it doesn't get, it will die. It's always burning those up, trying to die. But where is the sun in this comparison? It rises, and the lamp's light mixes with the day. Oneness, which is the reality, cannot be understood with lamp and sun images. The blurring of a plural into a unity is wrong. No image can describe what of our fathers and mothers, our grandfathers and grandmothers remains. Language does not touch the one who lives in each of us. Yeah.
Nice.
Very relevant.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
All right, guys. We'll see each other
All right.
next week.
Talk to you next week.
Yep.
All
I'll
right.
see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.